Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Nation Youth Podcast. Our guest in this episode is Dr. Fyali Jibji-Bukar. He's a Nigerian living in the UK with keen interest in energy accessibility in Nigeria. He is also passionate about development issues in Nigeria. We discuss about unemployment in Nigeria, the causes and solutions for the future. So if you are a Nigerian in diaspora, you need to subscribe to the Nation Youth Podcast and listen to this beautiful, wonderful episode. See you out there. Okay, good evening, Dr. Fyali Jibji-Bukar. Welcome to the Nation Youth Podcast. And my name is Yakubu Mofoyewa. I really want to appreciate you coming here onto our platform today, and all the way from UK. I know that you are quite a very busy person, and you have a lot of schedules, but we really appreciate your coming to join our podcast.
Thank you, Yakub.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we'll be talking about unemployment in Nigeria, Dr. Fyali. Basically, we really want to talk about the causes of unemployment in Nigeria and the solution for the future. I know that you are somebody that you have a wide knowledge and wide education, both in Africa and diaspora. And based on your biography, I know that you've graduated, you've had a bachelor, you had a master's, you had doctorate. It's really a good title, and I want to welcome you once again, because you are the kind of people fellow youths are always looking at, and they are looking up to people like you to provide a better solution for Nigeria and the entire Africa as a whole. So can you just tell us a little bit about you in addition to this thing I've talked about you? Yeah. I know you have a lot to say.
Yeah, I graduated from Covenant in 2013. Since then, I've been in school. So you can say that I've never left school. I've been a student for most of my life, and I actually just completed my PhD. And the focus of my research is like integration of more renewable energy into energy systems. And what a lot of people don't realize is, we hear a lot of talk about transition to renewable energy, clean energy, but what they don't talk about is the fact that it's practically impossible at the moment, even if we had all the technology, because there are some technical bottlenecks and some technical problems that have to be solved first before we actually get there. Yes. So my research is like, how can we increase the amount we have and still maintain stable power system operation? Because it's actually technically not possible at the moment to just have 100% renewable, even with the technologies that we have. So,
okay, is that for Africa or for generally across board?
Yes. You can't just have, because there is something called frequency in power systems that have to be maintained it's a very tiny range of values, and to maintain it at that values, you have to balance supply and demand constantly per moment. At every moment, demand and supply have to be equal. Yeah. So that is harder to do. It's simpler to do now with electrical generators that have stored inertial energy. But by the time you start having things like photovoltaics, you start having things like wind turbine, that is harder to, because those things operate at maximum power. There's no inertia. So it's very difficult maintaining frequency stability. So my research was focused on photovoltaics in particular. Is how can you increase photovoltaics and not have that adverse effect on frequency?
Wow. Okay, Dr. Fyali, I think we are now deep diving into renewable energy power system. I really wish we can actually talk more about that.
Yeah, that's a very tempting topic. You just brought
that's gonna be a different topic. Because our main bone of contention today is to discuss about causes and a solution for unemployment rate in Nigeria.
Yes.
Yeah, for people that are listening, if you really want to learn more about power systems, with significant amount of renewable generation sources and, it's just have interest in that. I mean, this is the right person for you to give you the information that you need. So you can contact him later. So back to the question, back to our main topic today. What can you say about unemployment in Nigeria, Dr. Fyali?
Yes, unemployment in Nigeria, honestly, now is a very timely topic because we are experiencing it at a very high level.
Wow.
And I think that generally, when you talk about unemployment, people might just know the rates, may know what the official number is. But I'm sure that if you talk to many people, they'll tell you about somebody they know who is finding it hard to look for a job. Yeah, so we're almost feeling it at it's very practical. Most people, I know many people that are looking for jobs now that don't have jobs, and I'm sure you know some too.
Yeah.
So, and I think that with regards to Nigeria, in my opinion, the primary issue is not really the people themselves. It's not the skill level of the people who are looking for jobs. It's really a failure of the system. It's a failure of the government in Nigeria. That is my opinion, primarily. And that is because most of the industries that should employ young graduates are just not there compared to the graduates that are coming out of universities in Nigeria and people graduating from higher education. We already know that, for example, most Nigerians find it hard to even get university degrees, get university level of education. So think about it, that even though most people are not getting the education, the ones that have gotten the education are not even getting those jobs. So it tells you there is a massive shortage, and that's not something that is just happened. It's because we've just failed over the decades, to create and promote those industries that would employ engineers, that would employ chemical engineers, that would employ civil engineers. Those industries are just practically not there. So the government is just that the blame primarily, obviously, is the government. Yeah.
So I mean, okay, because just like what you said, I know that currently there is a lot of things to discuss about the governance in Nigeria. We can't finish it
we can't.
When it comes to the entire sector, what's going on regarding the government governance, the ripple effect of the current governance in Nigeria. But I just want us to have some kind of a little bit of buttressing. I mean, a little bit of a clear view. What exactly causes unemployment?
Yes, that, for example, when you look at higher education, like universities, polytechnics, and the kind of training we get, generally all over the world, these are people who go to school for 4 years in some places, 5 years in some places, to come out and get very middle-class jobs, jobs that you generally will put them in the middle class. They'll work for a big establishment, and that's all going to be their careers. So, which means if you're like an electrical engineer, you want to work for a company that's maybe a power company or a company that does, building services, or that does, or if you're like a civil engineer, you want to work for a construction company, you want to work for a company that does a lot of infrastructure projects, or if you're a petroleum engineer, you want to work for a petroleum company, So I think that the training that we get prepares us for that kind of job. Those kind of jobs that they're not industries that you can on your own go and do something sometimes. It's just like if somebody is a petroleum engineer, most of the time you have to be part of an establishment.
Exactly.
Or if you're like a power systems engineer, you can't just go out and do something on your own.
Yeah.
Really. So we needed, that kind of education is supposed to be paired with like an organized industry of firms that would easily just absorb these people, and then they'll go on to like practice and develop their skills.
Yeah.
And let's say for example, what do like people who read power systems in school want to do? They want to work in a company that either makes generators,
exactly, power generation.
That's not something that somebody on his own is going to do. It's something that when you're coming out from school, you're hoping that there's already like an established institution and organization.
Exactly.
Yes. So the problem is that we did not think through the whole pipeline. Most people just thought that just going to maybe the government just thought, okay, once people go to school, they don't know that it's part of a plan. Even the organized formal education where you go and you receive a degree is supposed to be part of like a system that's supposed to end with like industries.
Exactly.
So we have not paid attention to the development of all the different parts of this process, So we have like good institutions that people can go and become engineers, but we've not thought of like promoting investment in
industries.
Yes, in those industries.
When people graduate,
Yes.
automatically they can get a job in that field that they are.
Those things in Nigeria are completely not developed. They are completely not developed, and I think that's the heart of the problem. So when you look at it that way, you say, because this thing is so complex, it's only something that could have been done by the government, and that's why I said in a simple way you can just say it's the government, but this is really a failure to invest in technology, in science that will lead to the establishment of those kind of companies.
I get it. I think you have said a big point that it looks like there is no proper structure for youth once they finish from the university, or they finish from polytechnics, or they finish from colleges of education. They don't have a direct access into industry.
Yes.
So the industry is not providing the access for them upon when they graduate.
You know what? Access doesn't even capture the whole situation. Instead of saying access, the size of the industry is not big enough, or it's not even there in some cases. You know what I'm saying? So it's not even just your ability to enter, because clearly there's some industry in Nigeria. It's not like like absolutely no industry. For example, there's a petroleum industry, but there's not enough. It's not nearly enough to accommodate the amount of engineers that we're producing and the amount of scientists that we're producing. It's just not there. How many pharmaceutical companies do we have to employ the people who read biochemistry and
my next question is, I found out that the rate at which graduates are actually leaving the country based on the issue of unemployment is so alarming. We've talked about the causes, What do you see that the effects of this rate at which graduates are leaving the country? What do you see the ripple effect of this in the future?
Yes. So, the problem, the problem with graduates leaving the country is that even though we have this problem at the moment, they are actually the ones who are supposed to solve it, So I think the direct effect of people leaving the country at the rate at which they're doing, which is alarming. Yes, it's alarming. It's over. If you talk to most graduates, they'll tell you that's literally the only way they can probably practice their profession and make a decent living. So if you look at it, the real effect long term on Nigeria is that it will actually be harder to actually solve this problem that we just highlighted, which is building this industry. Because even if we're going to do something about it now, we're going to actually need those talents, and we're going to need people to actually build it. So it's actually going to make it harder to solve the unemployment problem. You get, but at the same time, I always try to forgive them, because the first gesture and the first move is not from them. It's usually from the government. It's usually from federal and local governments. They're the ones who will first of all create the first move that say, look, we're trying to solve the problem. Yes, we want to now solve this problem. Maybe if you want to now give incentives for companies, you promote innovation, you promote engineering, you're the one, is the government that will try to make the first move, and then the people respond. So usually I tend not to look at it as people who are just not trying to fight the fight. They are actually these are very talented people, they're very smart people who have worked very hard, and the only thing they want is the opportunity to actually practice what they've spent years studying.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fyali. That brings me to the next question. Sometimes, for an average Nigerian, what we talk about basically is put all the blames on the government.
Yes.
We always say the government is not doing this, the government is not doing that, the government is not providing jobs, the government is not doing this. But sometimes I like to justify situations. I like to be very frank. I want us to also look into the culture of we, the youth, that are looking for jobs. Are we employable? That's the number one question. The second question I want to ask is the current culture of you as a person, Dr. Fyali. I'm sure you have been in Europe for more than 5 years, because you had your master's here at University of Glasgow, if I'm right, and you also had you've also studied in Strathclyde, right?
Strathclyde,
Strathclyde. Okay, so I'm sure you've seen the work ethic, seen the rate at the culture of doing job or working here in Europe. How can you compare this kind of work ethic, culture of working here in Europe compared to Nigeria or other?
Yes, honestly, you actually brought up a point that is true, which is there's actually a difference in work culture, and there's a difference in ethics, and I always look at it, and that's just the beginning of it. By the time we actually try to compare a lot of what is different, there are so many things that are different in the way we approach things and the way we take our work and our jobs with the way it is here. But at the same time, what I've realized is that many times when Nigerians go abroad, they're actually performing very well, and they're high performance. So what you now realize is that there have not been a demand placed on the proper work culture. So even though there is like a cultural problem, it has to do with people placing a demand on that culture, or institutions placing a demand on that culture. Because no matter how your behavior is in Nigeria, what I've observed is when Nigerians come here, they do what they need to do, and when they work, I don't think that taking your job seriously is something that Nigerians have problems with when they come here. So you can see that when the system demands it of them, when there's a system that says, you have to work hard, this is the requirements you need, maybe to keep your job, to get a promotion, and there's no compromise on it. They deliver. So clearly there is a cultural problem, but it's not of a lack of ability to change our culture or to meet up with high standards, but a lack of actually demand on that sort of culture, within ourselves. So that's a conversation that we need to even be having at ourselves and say, what, how can we build proper organizations in Nigeria that place demand on high performance, that recruits properly, and that trains people, but have high expectation. So it's high expectation. Let me give you an example. I'm a researcher, and one thing people do is research. If you have a research career, you have to publish papers. If you look at the Nigerian institutions, they don't publish in very good journals. They don't publish high quality papers. If you look at the journals where they publish, it's very low quality. And the reason for that is not because of ability or talent. It's because nobody is placing that demand for that kind of quality of work. Because believe you me, most Nigerians, they come here, they publish in respectable journals, they do decent research, but they don't do that in Nigeria. Yes, why? Because the institutions in Nigeria are not demanding that of them and saying that this is the level of performance that you have to perform at this level to either get promoted, to keep your job. But when you come here, you know that there's no negotiating that kind of performance, and that's what you have to do. Yes. So
you have to follow the culture.
Yes, you have to follow the culture. So it is true that there is a cultural problem, but that most of us just have to realize that with regards to unemployment, that the problem is that the system is not, when you want to solve this problem, you have to first of all agree that, the system is not just all smooth for you, that when you graduate from school, you're going to get a job, there's this industry that you can apply to. I think that once you come from realizing that fact, it will change the way you approach your own academic life.
That's right.
So instead of just like going to school and just graduating, you yourself will now ask yourself, like, what really are the skills
needed
that I need? Do I need to learn a new programming language? What do I need to learn how to use a new software? What exactly do I need to improve your own personal chance? So obviously, this is not going to solve the whole unemployment issue in Nigeria, but it can make you on a personal level more employable. Yes, and I can help you get ahead of the competition, because in other countries you can easily just graduate and there are many companies and they say, but there are very few companies. So the onus is on you to now plan your own academic life such that when you're graduating, you're not just like, I have a degree now, somebody employ me, and you can say, yes, you can be able to say, what, these are the skills that they need in the industry, and I worked hard to get them. So now that you know that there's a disconnect sometimes between what you're doing, the courses you're taking in school, and what the industry might demand, and then there's extreme competition. So it's for you to kind of figure out like what skills you need and then pursue those skills individually.
Thank you, Dr. Fyali. I think we're actually digressing towards the solution of this problem, because I'm sure that is one of the things you're already telling me the solution, the likely solution. I'm sure people are also listening.
Okay.
They can know that we are actually arriving at the solution. Now, before the solution, I also have one question to ask you. I personally, I also grew up in Nigeria. I had my bachelor in Nigeria, and I know what it is to work in Nigeria. I know what it is to look for jobs in Nigeria. I know how difficult it is to get a space, even if you don't find a job and you want to be a self-employed.
Yes.
And I'm sure that you also have a similar experience. You grew up in Warri, so I know they always say Warri no dey carry last.
That's true, by the way.
So, how do you think Nigerians that they cannot afford to leave Nigeria. How do you think they tackle that currently?
Yes, it's true. It's true that even one thing we didn't even address is like people who are able to leave Nigeria, that itself is a luxury. And because you can either leave, because maybe either you get a scholarship, of which are very limited opportunities, or you're able to afford, or you have some source of income where you can afford to take yourself out of the country.
Absolutely.
But definitely, for the majority of people, they will never be able to leave.
Absolutely. Not everybody that will have the opportunity to leave.
Yes. Yeah, so I think that the first thing that people will have to come to terms with is that they should not still expecting that whatever they study in school, that's what they must. Yeah, so it's you're coming to terms with the fact that, okay, you know what, even though I am like an engineer or an electrical engineer, there are just not enough positions. I have to agree that it's very likely that I would not practice what I have studied. Yes. And then, if you've done that, I think the next thing is to start asking yourself, given the situation, given the conditions in Nigeria, given the unemployment, given the situation, do I want to go into business myself? What kind of business can I do? And then they have to start looking at their own abilities, their own lessons, and looking at what advantage do they have. Because even though we might not all have money, people have different sorts of advantage. Somebody may be able to do business, somebody may be able to somebody may be able to, people can do different things. So I think that people should just not rely on their primary education. What is like say, oh, I'm a doctor or something. I think that should be forgotten, and the focus should be like on what do you have and what can you do with it. That's
right. What do you have and what can you do?
Yes. So I think if you start from there, you realize that you can actually do many things. And obviously there's some pride with like, oh, I've studied this thing and I don't, because especially when you're going to something on your own, there's tendency that it's going to look like a harder path. When you're somebody who thought that you're going to just get a job and you have like a middle class decent life, now you have to start a business. That's like a harder part, or you have to go into some profession that is very different. So it seems like a harder part. Yes. But I think coming to terms with that, most people realize that they actually have more than they think they do have. So somebody may be able to become a teacher, somebody may be able to go into business, somebody may be able to go into, there are all sorts of things, agriculture, there are all sorts of, so one thing people should realize is that even though Nigeria has failed in building some specific industry that may match your skill set or your education, Nigeria is still a developing country and there are opportunities there. So we need to now change our mindset and change our approach to now suit the conditions that Nigeria is, which is a country that has a lot of problems but also has a lot of opportunity. And I say, okay, now I'm approaching this thing based on what is there in Nigeria. So there's need for food, there's no enough food in Nigeria. I'm going to agriculture, There's need for, I can people go into fashion, people go into, so people need to just come to terms with that and then, and actually accept the fact that even Nigeria's problems are also opportunities, because solving those problems can also lead to like a very decent and, rewarding career.
Wow, you've actually given me some of the best solutions ever right now. So in addition to this, I just wanted to briefly talk about something that is really paramount, especially regarding the ripple effect of on Nigeria. A lot of people always talk about this, and personally, I feel disappointed. Anytime I hear people talking about it like this, because the government giving us, that's why we are doing. And this thing has started like almost a decade now, and it's still ongoing. An average youth feel that that's the way they can actually make it. That's the way they can actually live a decent life. I want you to talk about this. They call it internet fraudster. This Yahoo or everything. Do you think unemployment? Do you think unemployment is what led to Nigerian youth to be involved in scamming?
You know something? I actually think that it's actually just a moral failure of some people, and really, if somebody has the right education and the right upbringing, you always face challenges like unemployment and everything. But most of the time, I believe that somebody would already have some sort of, if you probably already lack some sort of, a good character for you to actually consider that in the first place, So clearly, anybody who is smart and thinking, knows that is not a way to a decent life, and that at your best you might have some short-term gains, and but it's not a decent life. You're not going to have a fulfilling career. and there is no excuse for it, just the same way there's no excuse to become an arm robber, there's no excuse to become a Yahoo boy, there is no excuse for it. So I actually am unsympathetic really to people who get into it and then try to say government. I don't really have a lot of sympathy, and I say the government is I know. No, look, there are many things you can do in Nigeria. Obviously, we know it's harder. For example, our counterparts in other countries might finish school and just get jobs. We know that that's what we really want. But even though we can't get that, there are opportunities in Nigeria. There are so many things to do.
Because there are a lot of online jobs that you can do that you doesn't have to do
with
people.
You see, the real problem in Nigeria, even though we say there's unemployment, I think a good way to phrase it is to say there's lack of like organized industry that would easily make it easy for people. So it's not really that there are no, because definitely when there are problems and there are needs in the country, definitely those things are also jobs for people to do. Right. Yes. So I really don't even think I should encourage somebody. Somebody thinks that going to Yahoo is a problem. I think that person usually has like faulty sort of judgment. You don't have good judgment for you to think that that's like a solution to your unemployment problem. So clearly, we don't need to try to explain why it's bad. We know that it's bad, and it's bad for our country. In fact, it even creates more unemployment because it gives the country a bad reputation. It scares away people from investing in the country, and at the same, which will even exacerbate the problem.
Yeah, that's why most Nigerians in diaspora they can testify to this. When you are abroad as a Nigerian, the first thing, once they ask you where are you from and you say you are from Nigeria, people are like, okay,
Nigerian prince. I've heard that.
Nigerian prince.
Yes, I've heard it many times. They just say Nigerian prince. Yes.
Yeah, so it's quite disheartening, and I just want to tell the youth out there, if you are thinking about it, think about your long-term goal. Think about what you have to do after all this fraudulent act is gone. Whatever you equip yourself right now is what is going to speak of you in future. Is what is the characteristic of you that you have.
Yes.
So
can I add to that?
Yes, please, you can.
Yes. Another thing I want to say is that I've never seen somebody who went in this kind of like fraudulent pursuit of like a fraudulent career and then end up well. Might have it good for a while. But I've never seen somebody who like retired from this and has like a, just wonderful fraudulent career. You're probably going to end up, in jail somewhere. You're going to get caught. It's only a matter of time. And then what you're doing is also going to make it harder for other Nigerians. So you're not helping the economy. So I think that thinking about it and thinking about the fact that really they're not going to, is this illusion that is going to be a proper career for them. No, it's better to go and get a decent living and try to go through that route, because really I've never seen anybody who has succeeded and then that is have a good end. It never ends well for them.
Yeah, we've studied. We can't. If you say we start talking about many Nigerians that they were caught in this act and they were exposed by both the federal government and also the Interpol and there are a bunch of
they'll get caught eventually.
Eventually
they'll get caught.
We've really hit the nail, and I really want to appreciate you, Dr. Fyali, for coming to talk about this very important topic, which is unemployment in Nigeria, the causes and the solution. We've actually talked about the major causes, and we've also talked about the minor causes. So if you are listening, you must have picked many points regarding this matter. In summary, I would like you to just tell Nigerians youth out there, tell them what future do they have? Tell them, let them know that there's actually unemployment in everywhere in the whole world, but it is very less for them to think about how they want to. Okay, so I just want you to advise Nigerians, just give them a summarized sentences or phrases about our discussion right now.
Yes, what I will say is that that it's true that Nigeria has very, very, very bad employment. The numbers are not good. Clearly, the numbers are not good. We feel it where most of us have family members. We don't have to go too far that are looking for jobs at no harm to. And we know that we believe that it's easier in other countries. It's easier to go to other countries. We know that, but there's something that we need to know, that is that we have an opportunity that most people in developed countries don't have is that we have an opportunity to be the generation that builds Nigeria. You understand? So even though we don't have all these industries, we don't have technology, we don't have, auto industries, we don't have, huge pharmaceutical industries, we don't have companies doing all these things. You tend to see the problems of Nigeria as opportunities. And challenge yourself to now take on those problems and solve it in whatever area of expertise that you have. If you're an electrical engineer, change your mindset. Say, okay, you know what? In this industry of like electrical engineering, like what can I do? Can I produce an equipment? Can I produce a switch? What can I actually do, to contribute to the building of that industry? Because clearly the industry is not well developed. That's why I'm not having a job now. But what can I do to solve that problem? So the main thing is to adjust your mindset. That it's true that Nigeria has a bad situation, but it's also an opportunity to be a country where you actually build things. It's an opportunity that most people in other countries don't get, because when you go there, many things are already built. They already have good infrastructure. They already have industries that do research and produce all the new gadgets and everything. But we are at the beginning. So that also means that that's an opportunity for you to actually make a significant impact. Very few countries where you can make that kind of impact. You can actually go and build an entire industry if you're ambitious enough. So see Nigeria's problem as an opportunity to make a big splash, and big impact, and pursue like your dreams. And we are going to be the generation that built all the companies that will sustain future Nigerians. So let's see ourselves as those people to build it. We are the people that will actually build Nigeria, which is it may sound challenging, but it's also rewarding. So we're going to be the generation that will actually lay foundation for like a greater tomorrow for Nigeria. So I think if you start seeing it through that lens, it should give you some sort of optimism or hope that there's actually opportunities in Nigeria.
There's hope in Nigeria. So let's build the nation by ourselves.
Yes.
With the youth,
we can do.
Are the ones to build this country. Thank you very much, Dr. Fyali, for coming.
My pleasure.
And I hope next time you still welcome our invitation.
Honestly, anytime. I really enjoy topics of Nigeria and development. I have a lot of interest in it. So anytime. And I think that one thing I want to add is that obviously we need to embrace the position of actually trying to figure out Nigeria and solving the problems. We always have this idea of leaving it and say we talk of government as like it's a third party, just somebody, some other entity. But we need to see ourselves as, we're the ones that some of us will still get into government. We are the people who will eventually lead society. So we should have to embrace the challenge of trying to figure out Nigeria to solve all the problems. There's a lot of them, but we should not get
future right now.
We should not feel overwhelmed by the problems that Nigeria has. So
okay, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Watch out for the next episode. It's going to be informative, entertaining, and educative. Don't forget to subscribe on any of our platforms. We are on Audrey, Spotify, Radio Public, Google Podcast, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, and Apple Podcast. See you out there.